This is a very simple app. It determines if number 1, that's the number entered here, is less than the number over here. There are certain problems with this, and we'll see that right away. So I'm going to enter number 100. There you go. And over here, 200. And click the Decide button, and number 1 is less than number 2. Hey, that sounds pretty good. What happens if I changed it? So I'm going to put a 300 there. Hey, what? Well, the reason being is that what we're seeing here is the message from the last time I ran this. Let's look at the code to see what the problem is. This is what the code looks like. It says if the value of number 1 is less than the value of number 2, print out number 1 is less than number 2 onto a label. But what happens if number 1 is not less than this? Well, it doesn't do anything. That's why it appears that the app isn't working. It's doing exactly what we asked it to, at least I asked it to do, but it's not the right thing. Let's go back and retrace my steps to see how I started this app and how I'll finish it. So here's the designer. I had to create all these things. This is a label, and it turns out that there's a label over here, right there. And I got these labels on the screen by just clicking on the label here. There you go. And dragging it in. To hide the label, I just deleted the contents, and you can see it here. If you look at my components here, you'll see they all start off with something peculiar followed by something which seems to make sense. The reason for that is it's very easy for me to tell that this is a label, and this is a text box, and that's a button. So I'm going to delete this label that I don't need. There you go. So that's how I got the labels on the screen. To get this arrangement, I used that arrangement. I use a table arrangement, which I picked from the layout drawer over here. So here's a table arrangement. Doesn't look like a table, but in that table I dragged one label, another label, and 2 text boxes. To make the horizontal arrangement stretch all the way across the table arrangement stretch all the way across the screen, I clicked on table arrangement, and the width I meant to fill the parent. You say, what do you mean by parent? Well, it turns out that these components have a parent-child relationship. It turns out this label is a child of this table. This table is a child of this screen. To change the name of this label, I select the label, click on rename, and the way I would do it is label and then put some sort of text there to explain what it does. Same thing for the text box. Rename, and I usually start off with txt and something else. By fooling around with the width of the text boxes, you can make them larger and smaller. With the label, you can change its size. let's say it's a label. There we go. And the width, I'll make it smaller. Come on. There you go. I can change the well, the reason it doesn't seem to be changed is we're in a table arrangement. I have a label over here, which you can see is 100 pixels. If I make this smaller, you can see how the label got smaller. I'll change the size here. This label, called label spacer, is used to position this button over here halfway across the screen. I'm going to delete this table arrangement and watch the error message which pops up. Or the do you want to delete all the blocks associated with it? And I say yes. Okay. Now, this was a horizontal arrangement like that, and that came out of the Layout tab. I put a label there and a button here. Oop, wrong side. And to position the button, I just modify the width of the label. There you go. This also I will delete because I don't need it. So I have a label here, a label that seems to be invisible over here, a button here, label spacer here, right there, and in this table, two labels to indicate which is number 1 and number 2. And now we'll go take a look at the code behind this app by looking at the Blocks tab. It says when the button is clicked, if number 1 is less than, if the text of number 1 is less than the text of number 2, print out number 1 is less than number 2. Well, that looks good because number 1, if number 1 is less than number 2, print this out. What happens if number 1 is not less than number 2? Well, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do anything. Here's how I got that. I'm going to delete this. Well, I'll make it simple. I'll just cheat. I'll delete the button code. The button still exists. There it is. Buttons over there. It's okay. No buttons have been hurt. To get the button click action, if I click on the button, these things will show up. These things in sort of gold are actions. So when the button is clicked, what do I want to do? I want to do whatever in here. At this point, there's nothing in there. But I want to make a decision if number 1 is greater than number 2, is less than number 2, I want to say so. Where do I get this? Well, I get the if from the control, built-in control, and there it is, if. Just snap it right in. Great. What about this thing? Less than. It turns out if you look in math, you won't find this. What you'll find is this. However, if you click on the down arrow, you have your choice. So that's how I have less than. Number 1 text, well, that comes from right over here. Number 1 text. If I click this, I get a whole bunch of stuff. Now, pay attention to this. The greens have 2 different colors. This one, the lighter one, with the prong on it, are the values of the attribute. In other words, number 1, background color. Number 1, whether it's enabled, you can get to it. This font size, the height, the hint. this is what we're looking for. What we're actually looking for is the text of number 1. This is what would normally go in there. I'm going to show you a quick and dirty way of doing this. I'm going to take number 1 and put something there. This may not let me do it. Nope, doesn't. Okay. But what I'm going to do is, by clicking this down arrow, choose text. That's what I want. Great. Over here, I want number 2, the text of text box number 2. I could go here to try to get it and scroll down, but I'm lazy, and it's more efficient for me to say duplicate. Duplicate. But you say, wait, that's not number 2. I know it's not, but clicking on the down arrow, aha, snap it right in there. So if the text of number 1 is less than the text of number 2, do something. Well, the label that's going to have the decision, I can choose to change the text of that to whatever text I want. So I can, you may not be able to see that. There you go. And I can put anything I want here, like hello. Well, misspelled. So let's see if it works. I know this isn't quite what we want, but I'm going to check. And so now I'm going to put a number here, 30, and another number here, 600, and 300 is less than 600, so it says hello. That's not what I want, but yeah. It's doing exactly what I told it to do. If the value of number 1 is less than the value of number 2, print out hello. I didn't want to do that. What I really wanted was this. So let me just try it again to see that this actually does work. And I click decide, and it says number 1 is less than number 2. Really great. But you can see that there's a problem, because if number 1 is greater than number 2, nothing else is done. How do we get around that? Well, first of all, let me clean up here. If we click on this blue button and drag this in there, you'll see how another socket opened up. Take that out, the socket disappears. I'm going to use else and click this to get rid of this balloon. All right, so if it's less than, we'll say this. If it's not, then we'll say greater. And most of you know that this is not going to be correct, but there you go. Let's try this. So, let's do 20. Number 1 is greater than number 2. Hey, that's pretty good. But what happens if now, you know 20 is not greater than 20. 20 is equal to 20. But if you look at the code, if this condition is false, if this is not true, the else will be done. And that doesn't seem to be right, because in this situation where 20 is if the value of both these numbers are the same, we need a situation some condition which will accomplish that. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to, oh, shouldn't have done that. I'm going to say, whoop, over here, that they equal. And over here, I need a condition which will be true to make this show up. If I duplicate this, this should work. So if number 1 is less than number 2, if number 1 is less than number 2, it'll print out this. Well, if number 1 is greater than number 2, it will print out that. And if it's not greater and not less than, sorry, not less than and not greater than, it'll print out that it equals number 2. Let's see if this works. So, hey, pretty neat. Make this 10. Yep, that works. Looks pretty good. So let me just go back and review what we've done. We set up a screen which has a label on the top, a table over here which contains 2 rows and 2 columns. Put put a label here and here. Text box here and here. A button here and a horizontal arrangement. Let me just show you that. The table over here, the horizontal arrangement over here, which has in it a label to space over the button, and below, where you can't see it in the designer window, but it's over here in the emulator, is a label where the decisions will go. We could get the app to work just as well differently. So for example, we could do this. So we could decide first to check to see if number 1 is greater than number 2. If it is, we can do it this way. Then check to see if it's less than, if that's true, this. Otherwise, they're equal. Don't like that. Depends on how you like to think. Or you could do it this way. If it's greater than, say it's greater than. If it's equal to, say it's equal to. If it's not greater than and not equal to, it could be less than. All of these are equally acceptable applications, and they all will work. Let's just take one last look at the emulator. Oop. There you go. And see if it works. 10 is equal to, well, say 10. See how that works. Very good. There you go. That's correct. And how about yep, looks like it works. Let me know if you have any questions.